Hi there, this is a video about Algebra 1, Unit 3, Section 4, Interpreting Functions Notes. Now, what I want to do is just talk about the fact that you can look at a graph, look at a function, and interpret the meaning. All right, so basically what I want you to come over here and write is that you are coming up with meaning for the x and y values, okay? A couple things to reiterate, all right? Remember that f of x that is equal to y, all right? And this is kind of a weird, thing to say here, but the whole thing, f of x, that's a y value, okay? The inside part, just the x, that's just your x value, okay? So we're going to talk about coming up with meaning for this. Now, the first thing that we're going to be able to do is to interpret a graph, okay? And so and this is a life skill, your ability to look at a graph, know what that means, know what the x-axis represents, what the y-axis represents, those are important things. So it says, this graph shows how the total number of comic books VJ has in his collection is related to the amount of money he spends on additional comic books. So you have a functional relationship here, all right? And let's identify what our x value is and what our y value is, okay? And so x value, we can get that from our label on our graph. And that's money spent on additional comic books. So I'm just going to write money spent on comic books, okay? And if we look at the y value, all right, the y value is the total number of comic books. So we're going to say the number of comic books, okay? And so the question that you're being asked is, how much money does VJ need to spend on additional comic books in order to have a total of 70 comic books in his collection? So really what it's saying is how much money, okay, then you have to come over here and look at your x-axis because that represents money, all right, to have a total of 70 comic books. So what we're going to do is come in here and find 70 on this, go over to our graph, find the point on our graph, and go all the way down and find the answer to be 400. So if VJ spends $400 on additional comic books, he will have roughly a total of 70 comic books in his collection. All right, that's what that means. So if we want to talk about this in function notation, we can say that f of 400 is equal to 70, okay? And what that means is that if VJ spends $400 on additional comic books, he has a total of 70 comic books, okay? That's the idea. All right, let's take a look at the next one. All right, let's look at this other graph. This graph shows the amount of money left to raise is related to the number of cookies that Ivan sold, okay? So Ivan sells 2 cookies. How much money will he still have to raise, okay? So this is an interesting graph, all right? Let's come over here. Let's label our x value. Our x value is the cookies sold, all right? And remember that I'm getting that information from the label on our x-axis, okay? X-axis, y-axis, all right? And then the y represents money left to raise, okay? And so after Ivan sells 2 cookies, how much money will he still have left to raise? So if we come over here and we find after Ivan sells 2 cookies, all right, let's go up and let's find that y value, that corresponding y value for that point on the graph. All right, if we mark that and go over, it's in between 5 and 6, okay? And what we have is that it would be 550 would be the point. So here's the point. We would have 2 comma and then 5.5 as your y value. All right, that's that y value of 5.5, okay? So that's the amount left that he still has to raise. Now we can write this in function notation, and the answer here is $5.50, okay? That's your answer. But we can write this as f of 2 is equal to 5.50, and we can put a label on that. And what this means, remember that these two things, when I write this in function notation and when I write my point like this, these two things represent the same thing, okay? And so, you just got to look at the graph and answer that question. Think about what's it asking you. After Ivan sells 2 cookies, all right, well, what's cookies? Cookies is X. So let's find 2. All right, how much money will he still have left to raise? So money left to raise, find the Y value on that point. All right, and that's the idea. All right, let's take a look at the next page. Okay, on this part, we are interpreting functions, and these are word problems, okay? So what we want to do is read through this statement and then identify what this means, okay? Now remember, all right, we're going to write down f of x is equal to y, okay? So remember that the whole thing, well, not the whole thing, let's talk about the inside part, the x part. This is your x value, okay? And the whole thing, the f of x, is your y value, okay? And so that's what we want to do. Now we're going to come over here, and we're going to say Chandler sells hot dogs during baseball games. The function f of x tells you the amount of money Chandler collects from selling X number of hot dogs. So here's what we can do. Let's write out X represents the number of hot dogs, okay? And then we want to write out f of x, which is the same thing as y. F of x tells you the amount of money Chandler collects. So this is total money collected, okay, after X number of hot dogs. So when we have f of 31 equals 62, what that means is that we want to figure out, all right, well, we've got our x value, okay? X is equal to 31 in this case. The y value is equal to 62. So once we identify, we know what x represents, and we know what y represents, and we have numbers, we can just combine those. So 31 hot dogs and $62 collected, okay? And that's all you're doing. And that's what it means to interpret this function. And then what that means is that you are providing meaning to what these functions are telling you. Okay, let's look at the last one. Okay, it says Connor goes to the doctor every year for a checkup. Among other things, the doctor measures Connor's weight. His weight in pounds is given by the function f of x, where x is his age in years. What does f of 40 equals f of 41 tell you? So again, let's use what this says, all right? Where x is his age in years. All right, so x represents age in years. All right, and y, let's have that, which is also equal to f of x, okay? His weight in pounds is given by the function f of x. So this is weight in pounds, okay? So when we have the statement f of 40 is equal to f of 41, what we know is that we have two different x values here. This first x value says that x is equal to 40 years old. And we have this x value that says that we are talking about when Connor is 41 years old, okay? And when we plug 40 into that function, we get his weight in pounds. And when we plug in 41 into that function, we get that weight in pounds. And what we know is that these two y values are equal. So the interpretation that we would conclude here is that Connor weighs the same amount at age 40 and 41. Okay, same because the two weights are equal. Okay, so even if we had like, you know, let's say that you had f of 40 is equal to 180. And what that would mean is that at age 40, Connor weighs 180 pounds, okay? And that's the idea, all right? So again, all you're doing is you are finding meaning for what you are doing here. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.